it's the first time in a while that I've been like genuinely engaged by a first episode. It's odd, but I genuinely loved it. Like, I don't know why, but like this episode ruled so much fucking ass. I was great. I love that this episode really focused on Tano, which worked mainly because he's practically just Kazuma Kiryu. He's a good-natured person with a dark edge that would gladly get his ass beat to protect the people that he cares about. He has a nice and good heart, and he's a bit of a softie, but he's a good dude in the end of the day. Which, like, genuinely, I loved just seeing him interacting with the rest of the cast. If it's the Half Century Cafe's owner and her son, which, hey, great influence, which I am pretty fucking surprised that they're just, the owner doesn't give him a job. Like, let him pay your rent with like work. And it seemed how much he doesn't like hate Nataya, which I'm going to talk about later. He seems to kind of like admire him, or at least they have some sort of like, okay, like I kind of care for you, let's kind of like be semi-close acquaintances. Which their conversation mainly kind of like revolve around kind of dreams and passion and being number one at something is really interesting, which are the theme of the show. But also, like, I love it, like, Nataya said, oh yes, I have a dream to deliver my music all around the world. He said the thing, he wants to deliver. While, like, it is interesting that our Red is kind of like has this self-loathing problem. He sees himself as an outcast, so he doesn't care if he would die. He literally said, hey, like, my life is pretty much meaningless. I'm an outcast. Like, it wouldn't matter in the end of the day if I would die or not, which is like really interesting. And the idea that he doesn't have a dream is really interesting. And the only time that he really started to have a dream is after he got the ring from the Tega sword, which is interesting, and it's really inspiring to kind of like a lot of other people. It's like, hey, like, be number one no matter what. While also like the entire point is like, I don't really have a dream, I just want to keep a job. Like, that's fine. While it's even more interesting to see bits of his backstory after he got the ring from the Tega sword, which seems kind of odd if you think about it, because we see Tano and his mom running away from something. We don't know what it is, but it's something, and pretty much like his mom tells him, hey, don't dream for anything, don't wish for anything, just smother your heart, it will be a lot easier. You wouldn't get hurt that way. Like, who the fuck she ran away from? Why the fuck she's talking about wishes and dreams? Like, what the fuck is going on with her? Did she like wish upon like the Tega sword and something really bad happened? Could be. And also, like, the biggest fucking detail, Tano is from the same world as the bad guys. It clearly shows us that. So it is interesting how the fuck he came to this earth. Like, how the fuck did he do that? It's genuinely interesting. And also it is interesting that like he got some sort of like flashback to the robot universe war. It's like, oh, are we doing the Troy thing from Megaforce? Please don't do that. Please don't. It's not good. But yeah, like overall, like Tano as a character is really interesting, and I genuinely like him because he's such a different Red. Self-loathing side, the idea knowing that he's an outsider, knowing he's a weirdo, like kind of gives him a different perspective to the rest of the cast, which I fucking loved. And I am interested to see how much he's going to grow as a person, because fuck, like the idea when he learned that, oh, putting the ring on could kill you, but also can also give you immense powers, shows how much he actually does care. Because he's not like a bad guy, he's not an anti-hero, he's just a weirdo, which like I fucking love. It's an annoying thing, but I think like Agito can probably do them kind of more, I would say more grounded, because I know people that act like Tano. Like there are enough weird people that like are not like they're conventionally weird. I think most of like the cast, the main cast, are weird but like they're realistically weird because Takeshi Inoue, her dad, knows how to write like this otherworldly weird, and it doesn't feel like off this reality, while it seems that Akito is very much kind of going to do this very in the real world kind of weird people that do exist. And I am interested in the Tega sword, mainly because it's like, man, it shows Tano to wield its powers, which seems that, again, this is a theory that I kind of conducted in my head, and that is, the Tega sword can see people's dreams and see what they want to fight for. If it's good enough, he would give him a replica of the Tega sword and the Sentai ring, which like it seems that this is kind of like going to be the thing. Everyone is going to fight for their dreams. Most of them are going to be people that has like genuinely nice dreams, but hey, they see like the rest of the I want to say Gozyugers, and he's like, oh no, your dreams are not meaningful enough, and they would fight them. But the Tega sword sees something else. The Gozyugers' dreams as meaningful ones that he believes that are good enough to wield his powers, and it is interesting. Again, I think, which is interesting, that maybe the Tega sword isn't the world saving deity that he is. I don't know why, but there is something off about him. I don't know, like the idea of like the mom saying, hey, don't wish for anything. I think it's semi-connected. I don't know what, but I think it's going to be somehow connected. While getting, in the beginning of the episode, a semi of a reenactment of episode 0 was great. Because hey, it was live action with real suits. How much like, oh boy, that scene when the Tega sword arrived and he was holding Bundarios, which its second time of dying in a span of like 3 months. Oh, that's sad. Was kind of funny, mainly because it's the Tega sword like putting his arms up and like they put a Bundarios PNG on it. It's just funny. I don't know why. While it is interesting, they changed the look of Calamity, which literally that's the name of it. It's just Calamity. I am interested. It's like, oh, how the Calamity is going to work next to our other villains, because like there is the villains that we saw in this episode. There is another villain that works for an AI company. Like, where do all of those villains kind of like correlate to one another? Are all those like different factions? Where the fuck is the villain from like the stage show that showed up and no one gave a shit about anymore? I don't know. It's really interesting, to be honest. And like the main villains, the number 1 world Bridemaid, I think it's supposed to be that because they're wedding themed. Genuinely interesting. First of all, like they took some of Go Busters' shit. I know there is some people say, oh, Gundam, but also Go Busters. Like, I love it. Like, having, the monsters. Like, I don't know how much we're going to get, like, the monsters piloting the mechs. Which I hope it would, because, like, the bits that I really liked in Go Busters. Because of that, like, Go Busters, at least the first half of Go Busters, felt really interesting. And then the latter half happened, and then it kind of became boring. But we don't talk about the second half anymore. We just talk about the first half and bits of the second half, just the latter half. No one talks about like the middle of Go Busters anymore. Come on. Who the fuck is Escape? But I am interested that, okay, they live in their own world. They believe, at least I think it's their belief, because Fire Candle, when he showed up, he said, oh, this is the Earth that we created. This is the world that we created. It's one of the world that we created. Like, is it a rite of passage of like the leaders of the world are these kind of cosmic entities that create other worlds, or they physically created it? Were they in cahoots with the Calamity? Maybe they worked with the Calamity because like it seemed Calamity as an entity kind of worked with someone, because like it seems that an entity that is a cloud that called the Calamity wouldn't work, wouldn't just develop a bunch of fucking robots. Maybe the number one bridesmaids like made them the robots. We don't know. Maybe they help with the AI guy. We don't know yet. That's genuinely interesting. Like, I am interested to see how it's gonna work. Like, because fuck that, they're really interesting. Because like their entire thing of wanting the rig is just to kind of keep their Earth kind of like still existing, because it seems like they want the powers to just, hey, we want to keep our world in kind of stable. We don't give a shit about like who lives on this other planet, this lesser world, this number 2 world. We care about ours, which is really cool. Like, I genuinely like it, because they seem to be kind of like, okay, we're the bad guys in somebody else's story, but we believe we're the good guys. Again, interesting. I love like their look. Fire Candle looks really neat looking. Flower Girl is really interesting. Like, I really like that they show up through circles. Like, it's kind of like a theme. Like, they teleport through circles. Like, again, which does work really well with the Tega sword pretty much screaming number one, and Tano can hear it. We see some reflective or just circle surfaces wobbling, which could be kind of like this connective tissue. Maybe just circles are some sort of the portals of between the worlds. We don't know where the Tega sword really like lies in, because we don't know where it is. We don't know really where the robot universe battle really appeared on. Like, it wasn't our Earth or like any other. Like, where the fuck did it show up? Again, it is really interesting with like Tano B from that world, how much that part of the story would connect. Again, I was actually quite surprised that like the robot universe world war like is actually being mentioned, because I thought it wouldn't. But that was great. I don't know, it's really cool. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, I think I dragged it long enough. But let's talk about the big fucking tire in this room. And that is not Taya. I don't remember his name, I would just call him not Taya. But it was cool to have an actor from a different season coming in and playing a completely different character, which has some like relatable stuff to his own like character, but he's different enough to make that character still new. Like, the idea of him wanting to be a musician is completely different than being a carhead. So it's like they're doing the opposite thing, which worked really well. I think that like him wanting to fight for his dreams, again, mirrors Taya, but also it is interesting that he was very much after hearing that Tano doesn't have a dream. He kind of lit up and is like, no, you got those rings and you don't have a dream. This is a useless thing to have the rings for. Like, that's really interesting. While his transformation to Kuakara Oger was cool, but I have one problem with it, and that is mainly the editing. And that is like, okay, we got the build up. Like, he removes the glasses, he takes out the ring, and then you show the ring. Like, I get it. Like, you need to show the toys and you need to show the kids how to use the toys. But he transformed once more, like, in the same episode. So you could have done that. Like, you could have done like him twisting the ring. We don't see the ring, so we think he's going to transform to Boon Red. And then he claps the hand and he activates the fucking like Tega Sword silver version. And he transformed to Kugara Oger. And that would be like a genuine surprise. Like, I don't know. It's really interesting. Like, the entire idea of him just transforming to a different Sentai Ranger. Really cool. People are already like fucking fantasy booking. Like, they would bring back or Tsunoi or I forgot his name, but like the dude that transformed multiple times to Initotsuki to become like a Domo Motaro. People are like saying, oh, it'd be cool if they would bring back both Lupin Red and Patron Ichigo, and they would just like make them go reverse, which doesn't really work because like Lupin Red already transformed to Padre Ichigo, so it's like I don't know if it would have worked. There is another one that I've seen is like, oh yeah, bring them back and have them transform to Time Red and Time Fire, which would work. Or like bringing Time Fire and make him like transform to like Time Red. That would be also cool. Because like if I remember correctly, like the owner of the half century cafe is actually Time Red's fucking wife. So it's like, oh, that could work. Do that. That would be actually interesting. No, oh my god. That's really cool. Like I don't know. Like I wish that the editor of the episode would have just not have it. Like, it's a small little gripe that I just don't like. But yeah, like, overall, like, that was an interesting first episode. It was interesting that we have not only our team kind of already assembled in some sort of way, because they all know each other in some sort of way, probably. They all have the rings, and Tano got it last. And something about Thanos' ring, mainly because like the way that the Tega Sword showed up for the first time, it showed up in the wolf form, so I think this is kind of the main form of the Tega Sword. So it is going to be interesting, okay, like how much like they as people would act together. Again, really interesting. I think the cast could be really interesting. The idea of past Sentai like actors, even like writer actors. Again, I've seen people like, oh, it's the time to bring Tsukasa's actor and he just transformed into Gokai Red. That would be interesting. It's really cool. Like, I hope it would be of a semi-regular occurrence. Again, have it be like a past Sentai actor. Bring back some other act. Like, hey, you don't need to bring up past Sentai actors or past Ultra or writer actors. Bring like a half-decent actor in and have him like play an interesting role. Like that would work, because that could like we can actually explore more of like, okay, the ring users are like, they're saying it a lot, the ring users are enemies of each other. They need to fight, but it doesn't need to be physical. Would it be like a moment of like, okay, let's do like a mental combat, let's have like a bunch of enemies and like the winner would get something? That would be interesting. Like, genuinely, like, it is, like, the concept of other people transforming into past Rangers is interesting. I am genuinely interested to see how it works and what happened when you defeat one of those Rangers. Would you get just their rings, and because of that we're going to get the kind of, like, transform into different Ranger scenarios? That's actually interesting. Why, like, having the different Rangers just not be kind of like Gokaiger, because Gokaiger and kind of like Dawn Brothers and kind of like other like season that we have like Rangers transform into other Rangers, they are completely different because they use different movements, they use completely different moves, they don't have the weapons. So that's interesting, genuinely. But yeah, like overall this episode was fucking great. Like I enjoyed like the fight scenes. Fuck that moment when we got to see the Gojo Wolf transformation, which I love that happened actually last and not the Megazord fight. I love that little twist, because sometimes Sentai is very much, oh, first transformation, then the mecha fight. Is like, no, mecha fight, then first transformation. That fight was fucking great. Again, like when people in the fighting game community talk about it, like for me it's great, because it feels like, okay, part of my fandom, both of my fandoms are crossing over and I fucking love it. While like the mech fight was fun, I do like they have their own kind of garbs for the Rangers when they pilot the Tega Sword. It is going to be interesting if they're going to keep it that way, and it's not just going to be like at one point they're going to be transformed. Again, it really depends on the way they kind of film stuff. People talk about, oh, the CGI is much better. It's like, no, the CG is better because like Sentai and Rider are now shooting ahead of schedule, which I would always say money doesn't equal for better CG. Look at a lot of like DC movies. Look at a lot of like the Disney movies. Most of them have really bad CG now because they underpay. Yeah, they underpay the CG team, but they're most of the time on crunch time. So like I think this is a big misconception about CG and CG modeling. like the entire thing is way more about time than money. You can have someone do like a good work for dirt cheap, but that would look better for like a $15 million like company or like something. I don't know, this is just me. While like I love that they kind of have their own kind of introductory when they do it in a ring, and it's like, oh, I am this and I'm doing that, I am this and I'm doing that, and there is a ref. I don't know, genuinely I never remember being this like really fucking excited for a season. Genuinely, I think Gates was the closest, but even with Gates, I was like, oh, that's Yuya Takahashi, I'm not sure. Now I'm like, okay, this is genuinely interesting because Akito Inoue is kind of new for Choku as a head writer, so I'm giving her way more leeway than anyone else. So yeah, like, I fucking loved it. I am still interested about the Tega sword. I think he might be misrepresented. Yeah, this was a great fucking episode. Gozyuger episode number 1 gets a fucking S. So, what you thought about Gozyuger's very first episode? Comment below, let me know. If you have your own theories about how the season is going to work, please comment below, let me know. If you enjoyed the video, please smash that like button. Also, if you haven't helped your subscribe button finally achieve its true goal of becoming a subscribed button, please smash that subscribe button. Don't forget, you're the only one that can prevent forest fires. Thank you very much and have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.